Yes, okay. What about Laura? Laura, I can't see her. Okay, it's okay. So we looked at this one actually before we. Yes, Laura, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Ulikuwa tu kwa active eh? You are hearing me?
Nakusikia.
Okay, sawa sawa. Okay, now can you be able to see my screen? The Microsoft Word document, eh? Okay, that's
Yeah.
good. So we are talking about this one. We looked at it. It was actually the very last lesson, eh? Before the president put the lockdown. So here we have the typical development process, and we say that we have got the discovery and planning. And in the discovery and planning, we say that in this phase, this is the phase the foundation upon which the entire project is developed. So it's where you determine the scope, the objectives, the wireframes. And what is a wireframe? A wireframe is like a sketch of how the website will be. You design a sketch. It's like a sketch. Let me just show you a wireframe, an example of a wireframe from the internet. Wireframe. That when you find this one here, image, as you can see, let me show you this one here. Open in a new tab. This is it's so small. This is an example of a wireframe. It's a website, actually a wireframe for YouTube, as you can see here. So it's a sketch of how how the YouTube website will be. And as you can see, if you have been on YouTube, this is how YouTube looks like. So you have this one is a search. You have upload there, notification settings, home, trading, subscriptions. Also on this side you have home, my channel, trading, subscription history, watch later, subscriptions zenye zile websites umesubscribe ziko hapo, and the recommended videos are there, the recently uploaded videos are there. So these are a wireframe or a plan that was created when somebody was building or when he was creating the YouTube website. So every time when you're in this phase for discovery and planning, you design a wireframe. That wireframe we said is that sketch. You draw it. You can draw it on paper, or you can use any design software to design a sketch of what you want. Then also, okay, that is good. We also talked about design and UI coding, and we say that design UI coding simply means the user interface coding. So this is where you create the user interface. In this case, you create the user interface for your website, and you ensure that there is what we call aesthetics, something called aesthetics here. What is aesthetic? Let me remind myself, or let's remind ourselves what we mean by aesthetics. Aesthetics is concerned with beauty or appreciation of beauty. So when you're designing the design and user interface, you are designing with beauty. You make sure that your website is as beautiful in accordance to the client's needs. So you design in this user interface, you work closely with the user so that you can design a website that is beauty, is more beautiful, or is beautiful in his own eyes or our eyes. Yeah, so that is in this phase for design and user interface coding. Then also, once you're done with this design and user interface, once you're done designing that, you go to the development. And this one we say that is where you integrate the user interface with a backend database. So this one development, you integrate. This is what I'm looking at here. Is the most. So you integrate the user interface you designed here in this stage with the backend database. Okay. Then once you're done with it, you go to quality control. The next step. In the next, this one, you ensure that the website is accurate, does not have errors. Okay, you do the testing, you test it, and we looked at the different types of testings. We looked at regression, functional, smoke testing, load testing, performance testing. All these ones are the testing that you are supposed to perform to ensure that your website has quality. Then the other one, after the testing or the quality, you're going to go to user acceptance, where now you take your website to the user so that they do a test on your website. So if your website is okay, they approve it. The clients approve it, and from there you go to the next step, which is the launch. And this one is where the website is made available to the target audience. So everybody in the organization now has access to this particular website. Okay, and in this launch is where we had things. We talked about data migration. We talked about server setup. You do so many things, server setups and configuration, code merge, domain name redirection, all these ones. An experienced team of professionals carries out these tasks with utmost precision by checking everything is set up correctly and leaving no room for assumptions. So this is what it involves. It involves all these things, data migration, server setup, configuration, code merge, domain name redirection, sanity tests, and all those things as you migrate to the new website. Now we were done with that one. We've said this methodology, we call it the typical development process. It has how many steps? 6 steps. Then also we have another one, another methodology for designing a website is called the agile web development methodology. This one is different from this one, the first methodology that we use, the typical methodology. Why is it different? We say the definition for agile is an umbrella term for different software development methodology that uses sprints or short development cycles to provide customer with best product through continuous feedback, iteration, and collaboration. Now, I'm sure this is only that the name is different, but you guys have heard of something we call prototyping. Have you ever heard of prototyping? Maybe when you are doing the system analysis and design, I'm hoping that you came across this term here, prototyping. So what is to prototype? A prototype, like for example, a prototype is a model. When you hear of that prototype, is where you work, where people, before they release a final product, they give you a model of the product for you to test first, and then if you like it, now they continue, they release the final project or the final product. That is what we call prototyping. Like for example, before Toyota releases a car into the market, they first of all develop prototypes, and then those prototypes are tested. They are actually not tested with human beings. They are tested with robots. So a robot will drive that car at the highest speed possible, because now they can't use a human being to drive a car with maybe 500 kilometers per hour, because anything can happen. So what they do, they release a prototype, a model of the car, and then they have these robots that usually drive. So in case the car has a problem, no human being will be lost. Okay, so they try to do many crazy things with this car to check whether this car is okay. If it's not okay, they go back, refine it, they test it until it becomes it is okay, until there are no issues with it. Yeah, so when you talk about agile, is a same method where you work very closely with the customer at every development at every developmental stage or every developmental cycle to provide the customer with the best product through continuous feedback, iteration, and collaboration. Okay, before this one was introduced, before the Agile Web Development methodology was introduced, we used to use what we call the traditional web development process, the traditional web development process. And this one, I'm sure you guys are familiar with it. This traditional web development process is similar to what we call the waterfall method, or what we call in system analysis and design, what we called waterfall SDLC. We call the SDLC. The SDLC is also called the traditional web development. Yeah, and it's also known as the waterfall model, where you began by planning, project planning, and then requirement gathering, and then you went to analysis, and then system design, and then coding, after coding, testing, after testing, deployment, after deployment, you go to support. This is a waterfall. And this waterfall is similar to what we have here. It's similar to the typical development process, very similar. So as you can see, this one, the first step is discovering and planning. Think of that is the first step. What about the waterfall? The waterfall, we have this one, the project planning. So similar. Requirement and gathering, all these ones. So you find that this method is different from this, in that this one, in the traditional web development process, for the user to get the final product, all these stages have to be, you have to undertake these stages for the user to access your website or your software. But now, in this other one, the Agile, you work with the user in every cycle. Every stage, you must have a user around. Okay? Okay, so that is good. I hope you understand this methodology of the waterfall, because we covered that one in system analysis and design, and also we cover that one in information systems, in when you're doing the information systems course in this. Also MIS. MIS tuliangalia pia. MIS kuna kitu kama hii. Okay. Now, the stages of the traditional waterfall method are as follows. We have the project planning. Okay, so you plan, and then of course requirement gathering and documentation, analysis, system design, coding, testing, and of course we say testing, you have code, unit test, system test, user acceptance test. Those are some of the examples of the different types of testing that are done. Then after you've tested, there is what we call the deployment. Okay, deployment, similar to the other one, this one here, they are all the same. So it's a typical development. This typical development process is the same as the traditional. See, it's only that now the way these ones have been put is somehow different, because they are from different authors. Yeah, they are the way they have been put, those points, these points and the other ones for typical development process, they are written by different people. That's why you find they are not exact. So let's look at this agile web development process, what it is all about. So in agile development, we use something like a circle. Okay, so we begin from requirements. You know the user requirements. Once you know the user requirements, you design. Once you design, you develop. Once you develop, you test. Once you test, you deploy. Once you deploy, you review. Once you review, you can go again to the same stage, the first stage again. So you keep on rotating. You keep on you keep going round and round until the software becomes until it becomes the best software for the organization. Also, this is another another model of how you use the agile development methodology. It's still the same, but it's from a different writer. You began with the research and discovery. Estimation, this is how long. You remember the estimation is where you identify how long the project will take place. Wireframing, I've already talked about this wireframing, what it is all about. And then design, after wireframing, you design. And then after designing, you're going to prototype. After prototyping, you develop. After developing, you do what we call the quality assurance. And in this quality assurance is where you do various types of testing. You do the unit testing, the system testing, the acceptance testing. Then after you do those tests, you go to the launch. And after the launch, you support. So this is an example of an agile, similar to this one also. It's only that they are different. The requirements is the first step. The requirement is the same as, is it the same as research and discovery? Requirements, yeah. What about estimation? This estimation is not there in this one. Yeah, so wametoa hii estimation na wireframing. So they just want you to go directly to design. So whichever method you use is okay. If you use, but for us, we're going to use this one. We're going to use this agile, this model here. Can I get rid of this? I can get rid of it so that it does not confuse you. Yeah, so that we know we're starting from the requirements, then we go to design, develop, test, deploy, and release. So let's look at what happens in the requirement phase in the agile. So the first one is when you talk about requirement, you determine the following: the end results of the project, and then the features that it will support, the features that it will not initially support. Okay. Then once you're done with this, so you're determining what the project will do, or what the project will be all about, and what the project will not be about. This is the requirement phase. Then once you're done with the requirement phase, you're going to go to the second phase, which is the design phase. And in this one, there are two ways or two approaches for designing. So one, we call it the software design. In the software design, this one is where you do what? You determine the programming languages that you're going to use. Okay, you can use any of the programming. You determine, for example, the team defines the programming language, framework, and libraries that the project is going to be using. So you're going to determine: am I going to need to use Java? Yes. Am I going to use JavaScript? Yes. Am I going to use CSS? Yes. So framework is the same as wireframe and such. Also, once you're done with that, no, this one framework. Okay, hii kwa wireframe itakuja hapa kwa UI UX design. So framework, for example, the team defines the programming language, the framework, the library, and the project, and the library that the project is going to be using. Okay, so once you on further iteration, the developer discuss the feature implementation and the internal structure of the outcome. This one is supposed to be outcome. So we are done with that. Then once you're done with this design, you can do another design called the UI/UX design. And in this one is what you do, where you design the user interface. Okay, or you can also draw or create a rough mock-up of the user interface. Okay, so if the product is consumer grade, the user interface and user experience are most important. So if, for example, you are designing a website, and this website will be used by consumers like Jumia, that website has to have a very nice user interface in order to capture the attention of that customer. Yeah. Then after you're done designing, we are in the designing phase. Tumesema kuna moja ni software design, and then also you're going to do a rough mock-up of what we call the user interface. Then after you're done with that, further iterations are spent refining the initial design or reworking to suit on it. So if in case you'll do another rotation or you refine it again, what you'll be doing is to add features that are suitable to that website, or better features and such. So once you're done with the UX or the design phase, which has two phases: the software design, and the UX stroke U design, or UI stroke UX, you go to the next phase, which is phase number 3, which is called development and coding. Now, development and coding, this one is where is about writing code and converting the design documentation into actual software with the software development process. Okay, this stage for SDLC is generally the longest, as it is the backbone of the whole process. There aren't many changes between the iterations here. So what we mean by this one, in the development and coding, you use a suitable programming language to create the website. But of course, this one is the longest in the SDLC. But for this one, you have to do it very quickly. In Agile, it has to be very quick process, to be a quick process. Then once you're done with the coding, you go to the integration and testing. And this one, when you talk about testing, you make sure that the software does not have any errors. Yeah, and then of course, once you're done with it, you're going to integrate the different modules that are there in this software. So I hope we are together to that point. Are we together? Let me check. Oh my. Are we together up to that point? Yep. All right. That's good. Now, once you're done with this development and coding, you're going to go to the integration and testing. Tumemaliza na hii tuliongea mambo ya integration and testing. The phase 5 is the implementation and deployment. Okay, you implement that software. Once you implement it, you're going to review it. To review is the same as the maintenance. So once all the previous development phases are complete, the product owner gathers the development team once again and reviews the progress made towards completing the requirements. The team introduces the ideas towards resolving the problem that arose during the previous phase, and the product owners takes their preposition into consideration. So in case of anything in this stage, you can repeat the entire process afresh. Yeah, so that's what we call the agile development, the agile model, or the agile web development process. Let me undo something here. Let's go back to this one. Yeah, so okay, now we go to the next. We're going to go to advantages of using this agile. One, why should we use this agile web development technique. High customer satisfaction. This is one of the benefits, and we can see that customer is always involved in the process, in the process of web development. So if you are involving the customer in every step of the development, you expect that there will be higher customer satisfaction. Yeah. Such engagement through the project lets the customer to monitor the process and ask for any changes or improvement if necessary. Then another one is the increased project control. This is another benefit. So this one we say sprint meetings, transparency, and visibility of each step of the project for both parties results in a successful solution. Yeah, so when you incorporate the customers and of course the developers, there will be increased project control. Then another one is a focus on business value. So you say, as long as the customer determines the priorities of the project, the development team understands what is important to the client's business and can deliver the solution-oriented business value. Okay. Yeah, so that's good, focusing on business value. So you as a project, as a somebody who does coding, you are likely to understand the core values of that business more when you are working with the customer. Another one is another benefit of this technique is regular checkups. So this one we can see that in agile development, testing is integrated during the cycle. This means that there are regular checkups to ensure that the product is right during the process of development, and that will be okay. Then the other advantage is lower cost. So it's faster development eliminates the need for overtime payment. So you find that this one is fast as compared to the old traditional SDLC. Then this one is higher productivity. The opportunity to better estimate the project provides a higher productivity. Okay. Then another one is early and predictable delivery. So 6 scheduled sprints of 1 to 4 weeks ensures the delivery of new features quickly with high level of predictability. So this one, yeah, it's very predictable. As what we mean by highly predictable, you find that because this program will be released very soon. We said it is, when you talk about agile, what is the meaning of agile? Let's look at this. The meaning of the word agile. Agile meaning is to be able to move quickly. Okay, or sprints. People do sprints. Tamika was okay, sijui kama alikuwa anakimbia, but the people who do sprinting. So what we mean by that is this product, this website has to be developed very quickly. So the quicker it is, the more you'll be able to do what we call prediction as to how that website will look like. Yeah, so that's why we are saying early and predictable delivery. And this one, because of that short delivery period, you are likely to predict what will happen or the features that will be there. Unlike the old traditional SDLC, the old waterfall method, that one you could not deliver because you could not predict accurately the final product because it will take even like 1 year. So you may not be able to tell what will have changed within that year. Maybe some people will have changed, like you'd have contracted a web developer and then fired him within that 1 year. Okay, some like you'll have created new departments in that organization, so you'll not be able to really predict how that software will look like. So also another advantage of this agile methodology is that reduced risk. So it eliminates the chances of complete project failure. Okay. Did you say lower costs? Yeah, so it reduces risks of project failure. Okay, why? Because you are on constant communication with the customer. So there is no way you'll find a customer who as in, if you're working closely to the customer, there's a likelihood that at the end of this project, that customer will accept the final product. Unlike when you're not working with the customer may actually think or may reject the website that you develop even at the end. Yeah. Then of course the end of this, the last advantage of this is that flexibility, and we say project requirements and workload are not fixed. So clients have a possibility to change both these aspects if they find necessary. So this one, you find that now the project requirements and workloads are not fixed. So you find that now the clients can actually change them at will. Those requirements, the requirements that were stated in the requirement phase, they are not fixed. And now that because you are working closely to the clients, you are likely he can change them anyhow, depending on what he wants. So this is what we call the agile development, the agile model, or the agile web development process. Here it is. So what you do for you is to go through it and see whether there are some areas that you master the steps. You master this one. There are other development techniques, of course, that I have not yet prepared the notes for them. We looked at this. We looked at the typical development process and those steps. But there are others, like there is one waterfall I've already told you. There is this one called the waterfall or the traditional method. Of course, after the traditional, we have another one called, not that one. Agile nimemwambia, mambo ya agile ndio hii. So we said agile company is flexible, quickly adapts to changes, iterates less while implementing faster. Okay, this is just some features. Then we also have another one, which is called Scrum. Scrum is also similar to Agile in a way. It's actually a branch of Agile development. Okay, Scrum was initially developed for managing and developing products. Starting in 1990s to nowadays. Okay, so Scrum, we use it to develop different products. Scrumming. You know what is to Scrum? It's very similar to Agile. Na kuna ingine inaitwa Kanban. You see, Kanban is another web development technique. Let me see whether it's there in the books. Kanban web development. Hai, okay. Hawajapatiana hizo. Hiyo hajaandika. But maybe I'll look for the others. But for today, let's just stick with this one with the agile, the agile web development process. In case I will find another one, before the next lesson, I will introduce you to it, another development technique. If I discover others, which I know I will then inform you. So also, this one I've included the link where you can get further notes on this, or where you can read further. You can visit this website and see the development these development techniques that I've just shown you here. Sio hizo iko wapi? Na sio hizo hizi akina Kanban. I want to extreme programming, and also there's our approach hapana. So that's all for today. As you can see, we are in which topic? Well, we began by this one, Introduction to Internet Programming. We looked at all this, internet-based programming, World Wide Web, role of website in an organization. We also looked at web programming approaches, na ndio tumeangalia sahi. If I'll check whether we'll continue with it next week. And then also we looked at this one, web programming languages. Web programming interface, we need it also. Okay, hiyo tutaangalia pia. And then criteria for choosing web programming language. This one we did last week. So tuko karibu kumaliza hii topic. Once you're done with it, we're going to go to the HTML coding. Yeah. So is there any question? I can send you let me send you the notes, the one that we have just covered today. Let me save. Web programming approaches, I hope that's the one. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, so I upload. So I've sent you the notes. So there we have two, the typical methodology and the agile methodology. Is on BB. Any question? Any question? Is there a question? No questions. Okay, so we'll continue from there in the next class. Yeah, so you guys have a nice weekend. Make sure you keep time, msichelewe sana. Saa zingine naweza pata shughuli, naweza maybe nikiona mmekaa sana, maybe nipate nimeitwa place ingine, so make sure at least you be early. Msikuje saa 8 na saa 7 na nusu. The class was starting at 11:30. Yeah, so I think that is the only concern. So from there, enjoy yourself. Have a nice weekend.